Back to the Plays with Cars YouTube channel and another episode of Project Porsche. That's right, it's still here. We haven't gotten rid of it. So I've gotten some comments and some messages and some questions from people going, what's going on with the Porsche? How come we haven't seen anything on that basically since National Tour happened? Like, really, it kind of fell off the face of the earth. Short answer is not a whole lot. Long answer is because National Tour and National Pro Solo and Packwood were kind of our big thing for the year. That's kind of the finale, so to say, of this year's racing of this car. We did continue to race it in the local regional championship. I was in the lead in C Street and in third in the Street 2 Superclass. To podium and all that stuff, and the last event of the year came up, and as you saw, if you follow Project Audi, we took Project Audi instead. Now, it stayed in the same superclass because G Street and C Street race each other, and the Audi was G Street legal. However, I didn't do nearly as well, obviously, because it's a completely stock Audi, and at the time on really crappy tires, and basically lost out. However, I wasn't really being all that ultra competitive. I had no expectations, so to say, when the season started of how I was going to do with this thing. I definitely didn't feel like I was going to be anywhere near the top of the class in the first season, and frankly, it's pretty much still a stock Boxster S. The only thing we've done was the RE71R tires on the factory wheels, and some plain off-the-shelf Kone shocks, along with an alignment, and then a whole bunch of like replacing OEM parts with OEM parts just to get it up to snuff, because she's a bit older and she's got some miles on her, and it just needed to be done. So since then, we took it on a couple more regional things. My co-driver actually won C Street Ladies. She won her class, and then when she actually wrapped it up with like 3 or 4 events left in the season and came over and ran C Street Open, just to kind of play around a little bit and see how she did against all the open guys. She is going to run C Street Ladies again next year, along with the director of our regional club. So this car is actually going to have 4 drivers next year, because the director and her husband are going to co-drive with us. So him and I are going to run C Street in the S2 Superclass, and the ladies are going to run C Street Ladies in the S2 Ladies class. So we'll have 4 drivers sharing this car for a full season next season, and I believe it's 15 events for region, plus National Tour and National Pro Solo maybe. Basically, we're going to go to Pro Solo, but we'll probably not take this car. It does not do drag strip launches at all, and we basically like fought the car. Right now, since we sold the Cobra, kind of the loose idea is to take Project T-Bird, if it's still around come July, to National Pro Solo to run the Pro Solo only. And that's because this thing, being a traditional front-engine rear-wheel drive with a regular hydraulic clutch, no cables, no craziness on shifters or anything like that, you can make boost, dump the clutch, and just go like hell in this car. And we can run some interesting classes with this. We can run KMT, we can run, I believe, C Prepared? And we've got a bunch of prepared guys that always need a class filler, which is what we did last year. We ran this thing in, D Prepared? I forget what class we ran in, but whatever the prepared class is for the Boxster, they needed a class filler. That's what we did. We'll probably class fill again with this next season, but at least it'll be a car that we won't fight and aren't going to be afraid to break. So anyways, next season, 2020, the Boxster is still running C Street. We're going to have 4 drivers. We're going to do it. The car will likely be at all 15 regional events, even if I personally will not be. I believe there's, same thing like this year, there's like 2 I've got to miss for scale model shows. But what are you going to do? But it will definitely be at Packwood National Tour again. Now, are we going to go to big-time nationals? Likely not. Lincoln, Nebraska is really, really far from Kelso, Washington, and the costs associated, not necessarily with the event itself, but with everything getting to the event. You got to take a week off of work. You got to transport the car there. You got to transport yourselves there. You've got hotel, lodging, food, blah, 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 blah. It's really, really, really expensive for basically a couple of rookie drivers. Even though we've been doing this a while, it's not like we've been very competitive or trying to be competitive. So taking a big splash to that is probably not the best thing. However, we've heard that the Canadian Nationals, basically the Canada's version of the SCCA, their national tour, or their nationals overall, like their big end of the year one, next year is supposed to be in British Columbia, which is just over the border from us. We may go try that, just because that would be something different and really, really fun. But as far as nationals goes, we're going to give it at least one more year and see what happens. Also, there's some rumblings that Lincoln might not continue to be the place. And so if nationals overall shifts, like how they do right now with road racing nationals, they move it to a different track every year. And so, it's been in the Midwest, it's been on the West Coast, it's been on the East Coast. If they go to that for solo, and they do a West Coast biased one, something in California, or Vegas is apparently like the new hotness. Vegas would be way easier for us. We'd likely do that. So anyways, that's what the events are going to be for Porsche. Now, obviously, you could see we took all the decals off, even the tire rack across the top from Pro Solo. We put her back into Street Car Guys after National Tour, National Pro Solo happened. Ran a couple more events. Did well in those. Like I said, I was in the lead in C Street, and I was third in the S2 Superclass out of 32 people or something. Actually ended up running that class by the end of the year. But threw it all away on the last event. Of course, I missed the second to last event. It was Point Saturday and Sunday, and the Saturday I was at the model car show all day long and didn't go. So, nuts to me. To finish first you must finish, and in order to finish first, you must show up. We'll tackle next year. I think next year we're going to be able to go to more events and be competitive in more events. Now, how are we going to make the car more competitive? Haha, I'm glad you asked. Nothing wrong with the Conies. I don't want to feel like anyone says I'm bashing Coney or anything like that. I'm not. The Conies were great on the car. I'd love to put some Conies on one of our street cars. I think it would actually be a good upgrade from the coilovers on the Mazda 5, for example. However, for autocross, for solo, you need something a little crazier than an off-the-shelf Coney, and that's where these come in. I can't remember if I showed these off or not in a previous video, but these are some custom-built JRZ dampeners for the Boxster. I was actually contacted by a guy that ran at Nationals in a 986 Boxster back when they were new, and he was like, hey, I still got these. If you want them, I'll sell them to you at the right price. And I was like, yes, please, and got them. Now, they need to be rebuilt, and I think this is the one that's missing its little valve thingy at the bottom. So I need to get these. I think the nearest place is up in Seattle, so we're going to do a road trip this winter and get these up there and rebuilt. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to do a full M030 suspension swap on the Porsche. Those of you that are not Porsche heads, let me explain. Porsche does option codes for every single thing on the car, and Porsche is really good about doing what's called a la carte. That means there's not an option package necessarily to get the option you want. You can get it by itself. For example, these wheels, these 18s, were a standalone option. As long as you ticked the right box, you got those wheels with nothing else. One of the reasons we bought this car is, as you can see on our option code sticker, we basically don't have any. These are the lines of options here, and yeah, I know my sticker is all sorts of messed up, but you basically have, I think one of these is the stereo that includes the CD changer. Well, not the CD changer, we don't have that. That would go right there. But it's like one of the upgraded sound systems, not the big one. It's like a little one. Cruise control, and then like the color of the car, the color of the top. That is all the options this car has. Most Porsches, this goes down to about here. Really well-optioned Porsches, it takes up the whole sticker. So one of these option codes is 030, and 030 is literally a standalone sport suspension package for the Porsche Boxster. I believe they actually use that code for the sport suspension on all the Porsches, even though it's different parts. But anyways, on the US spec Boxsters, it gives you bigger sway bars front and back, springs that are stiffer, but they're not any lower in the US. The rest of the world, it lowers the car. US spec, they are standard height from what I'm being told, what I'm reading. And I think that's about it in this particular year. Because that's the other thing. It's got to be for this particular year. I can't grab one off of like a 987 Boxster, or even like the facelifted 986s from, when did those come out? Like 03, 04? Where they changed a couple of things on these. You can't do that either. It's got to be your year, specific to your year. Now, the 030 suspension was completely standalone. As long as I swap everything that comes with that package, I'm allowed to do it per SCCA rules. So I'm going to buy a complete M030 suspension package for this, do the front and rear sway bars, and do the springs, and then instead of doing the M030 shocks, obviously because you can change shocks, we're going to run the JRZs. We will also likely, depending on how much that is or what the car is doing or feeling like, switch the front sway bar at the same time, because you can do one sway bar to a 911 GT3 bar. And basically, the one sway bar you can switch is, you can run whatever you want. It could be aftermarket, it could be another stock part, whatever. You just can only change one. So what I can do is I can buy a rear M030 bar, a set of M030 springs, and a GT3 front sway bar, pair all that with the GRZs, and now I'm fully legal as an M030 car, with an aftermarket front sway bar and aftermarket shock. So it actually makes buying the suspension really cheap, because I could get it used secondhand, because a lot of guys that have a real M030, they either put on coilovers or switch to lowering springs. So I can get the springs pretty cheaply, and a lot of them will change the rear sway bar for an adjustable rear sway bar. So I can pick that up independently pretty cheaply. And I only need those two parts to pair with an aftermarket or just a different front sway bar and the GRZs to make the car fully legal. So that's kind of the big thing. The other thing is, the other set of wheels we have for this, the 17s, we never did put street tires on them. One of the things we did learn this year is this car is so long-legged. It does like 73, 74 in second gear. And we're like, oh, great, like we're going to have this huge speed advantage on nationals tracks. No, we never got there. The straights are not long enough at all to get to that kind of speed in this car. So going to a shorter tire height is like the same thing as putting in a numerically higher rear gear ratio, so that the car will accelerate harder at the sacrifice of a little top speed. So the 17s that we have, we can run a same width Bridgestone, but an inch overall diameter shorter. That will let the car accelerate harder out of the corner, which is what we really need. It kind of has this dead zone in the middle at about 3,500 RPMs, where it doesn't really make much steam yet, and it doesn't have a lot of torque. We're actually getting out accelerated by Miatas at that particular point. So anything we could do to kind of help build some punch there will help out. The other thing we're going to do is the exhaust system. It still has the stock exhaust, albeit with those holes punched in it. But it's big, it's heavy, it's restrictive, it's hurting power. So we're going to have a custom exhaust built for this thing, and really do all of the mods that the book says we can do to this car. So that's an air filter, all the lubricants, a catback, put even crazier shocks on it, do one of the sway bars, switch to the M030 suspension, and then we'll really be in a serious place with this car. Oh, plus we're putting the Hawk brakes on this. We still haven't put the Hawk brakes on it. We're still running all the OE brakes. So the rotors have to stay OE, and calipers and all that stuff, but it's the Hawk brake pads. It's that pad compound that's more aggressive for this one right here. The Street Race compound is what we got. We still need to put those on there. So lots of changes coming from Project Porsche. You will have videos for this over the winter as we do all of those mechanical things, and then expect a lot of videos next season. Like I said, 15 events plus National Tour plus maybe National Pro Solo, plus a couple of fun events with other clubs. Bridge City Autosports announced they're doing this really awesome like sprint cross. It's like a cross between an autocross and a like a time attack down at Oregon Raceway Park that sounds amazingly fun. We're going to try and hit that up in this. So we're going to do lots and lots of racing next year with this. So we're going to have lots and lots of time working on it in the garage over the winter. But that is what is going on with Project Porsche. So those of you that have been impatiently waiting, your time has come. I promise you we will begin working on this thing now that the weather is crappy and this car's not leaving the garage anytime soon. It's time to rip it all to pieces and start doing some stuff to it. So, yeah, stay tuned for Project Porsche.